Welcome to BK Nothing But Nets podcast. I am here with a full panel. It's going to be a lively debate today. We're going to talk about Cam Thomas and his future with the Nets, but let me introduce the panel. Obviously, I got my partner in crime, Dylan. Dylan with Nets Press. I also got Pete from Nets Fans and special guest Nate. Nate, it's been a while since we've had you on. How's everything going?
It's been a minute. I'm doing well. Yeah, I don't have a podcast or anything to advertise, but it's good to be back.
And Pete, Nets Fan, let us know what you got going on.
Just dropping a couple episodes. I think everybody who watches the show knows me by now. Just check out @NetFans on Twitter and YouTube.
Yeah, if you're listening to a Nets podcast on July 9th, you know who Pete is, right?
I wouldn't say that, but
the man, the myth, legend. Everyone knows Pete.
You know Pete. All right, Dylan, I know where you and I stand on Cam Thomas. We're kind of in lockstep on this. I'm at the point now where I don't even think it's worth bringing him back at all. I really don't. I don't think he's got any long-term plans here, and I think we could spend the money better elsewhere, namely Kuminga. I know Dylan, Nate's got different thoughts. Nate's going to draw a comp. Well, go ahead, Nate. I don't want to steal your thunder. I know you think the Nets should at least bring him back. Give us your position on what the Nets should do with Cam Thomas. I want to start with you.
I mean, I've been listening to you guys go back and forth for weeks now, or probably longer than that, months over Cam. And I was last year when we spoke, Gary. It was like probably 12 months ago.
It's probably almost a year ago.
It was like I was the anti-Cam guy, and you were like the pro-Cam guy, and now the tables have turned somewhat.
I'm not anti-Cam. I'm wearing a Cam Thomas jersey. Love Cam Thomas. That's not the issue.
Support. Yeah, I don't know Cam Thomas jersey. I never will. But I'm not. I don't think that the Nets are in the business of getting rid of assets right now. And I've heard you guys, and the contract is every contract. But if you can give him 2 years 60 or 2 years 55, something with a player option where he thinks he's gonna have the ball a lot this year and can go off and then opt out again next year. I'm all for it. You're not in the business to get rid of a Cam Thomas right now when you don't have anyone that can score the basketball on an NBA defense. There's no one on the team that can score. Not even
just
to
ask you a question. So you said 2 years 60, 65. So you're looking at him as around 30 to 32 and a half.
55, 60. 55, 60.
Oh, 55. Okay, so you're still looking at him as like a $27.5 to $30 million a year guy?
If you're giving him 2 years, I want to incentivize him with money and probably a player option, something like that. You know what I'm saying? If you're giving him a much shorter contract, because then
I would understand it if teams had cap space and you had to outbid another team, right? But the fact is that there's only heading into free agency, the only team with cap space, I believe, was either Memphis, Detroit, or Charlotte, and that was like $15 million. So if you're in the market, this is just me asking you because I don't think I've ever spoken to you, so it's nice to have you on and be able to discuss it. But if there's no team in the market to be able to offer him something of that nature, why would you look to double and a half the amount per year when there's truly no market for him?
So again, that's probably my max, and like I just said earlier, you can debate the contract back and forth, but the bottom line is the Nets are not in the business of losing a talent like that. You want him on the roster next year. So however you get that done with your Sean Marks or negotiating, there's not a lot of teams you need to negotiate against, right? But my garbage football team also just played a cornerback that is not very good, like 3 years, $50 million. So sports is kind of wild, and you never know what's going to happen. But contract-wise, we can negotiate back and forth, but I don't think the Nets are in the business to lose Cam Thomas, is my point. He should be on the roster next year.
Let me bring Pete, because I don't – okay, you want to counter that, Dylan? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask one more. And so you've said that we can't lose him. Does that mean you're open to the idea of a sign-in trade to receive something back in return for him, or do you flat out think that at this point?
No, he's an asset, but this isn't football where you're getting back like a compensatory second-round pick for a guy that scored 25 points a game. You can't get back zilch. You need to get back something. Sign and trade, Kuminga, all that. Yeah, we can talk.
I was going to say the nice thing about him being a restricted free agent is even if he isn't offered a contract, he's already been tendered the qualifying offer, right? So he's at least there's no world where he's not here if a contract isn't offered to him because he has to accept the qualifying offer, right? So I think that's kind of where sometimes people are freaking out a bit too much when they shouldn't be. He's either going to be on the team because he's on the qualifying offer, a multi-year deal, or he won't be on the team because he's traded. I think those like the only three scenarios realistic at this point in time with him.
All right, Pete, I don't really know your position. I kind of know your position. I've heard you talk about it a little bit, but just, big Nets fan, Cam Thomas guy. What is your position on Cam Thomas? How much would you be willing to offer him? And, if you can't come to terms on a multi-year deal, would you just kind of be done with him like I am?
All right. These guys just talked about a lot. So I'm going to cover a couple bases right now and a couple of things I want to get through. First of all, you guys mentioned the cap space. There's no cap space along the NBA. In a normal NBA season, I do think he would be worth around like $30 million. You look at deals that Emmanuel Quickley got. He got 5 years, $162 million at 25 years old. That's $32 million a year. RJ Barrett at 23 got $27 million a year for 4 years. So comparable players, it looks like he would be in that range. You could talk me down a little higher, a little lower, probably a little lower. But you look at the cap space around, there's nobody. There's really nobody who could even offer. When teams are trying to throw out an offer sheet to restricted free agents, they actually have to have the cap room there. So it's not like they can go over the cap or they could do some like other stuff. You need $25 million a year for in this upcoming season if you want to offer Cam Thomas a $25 million contract. So would I let him walk for nothing? No, you want the asset, like Nate said. But how many teams could even do a sign and trade? Not many.
I want to push because they talked about a sign and trade with Kuminga. There's a 0% chance, and this is why I just let him walk. There's a 0% chance Golden State wants Cam Thomas. Could you imagine Cam Thomas going to work, ISO, and Steph Curry standing wide open? It's like, get the hell off the court. What are you doing, right? Like, him, Jimmy Butler, it's just not going to work with him in Golden State. So, to me, if I let Cam go, I can now offer Kuminga a legitimate contract. Right? If Cam Thomas can't get a better offer than $6 million, I'll get Cam Thomas back for $6 million, the qualifying offer. If not, if someone else offers him more than $6, okay, I lost him, which sucks because I hit on the 28th pick in the draft and got no value out of it. But I have that money to free up that I can use now to make a big offer on Kuminga, who could be a long-term piece of what I'm building. Like if I have Kuminga and I have Michael Porter Jr., I have my role players. Now I just need to get my superstar a year or two from now. I have the role players lined up, and now I just need to add the star. And I'll have the cap space and the picks or the picks to make that a reality. That's why I'm just saying, just let him go. He's not a part of your long-term future. You drafted 4 guards, right? He's not going to be here. And I understand trying to get value for him. I absolutely do. There's no trade market for him. And the guy that we want, Kuminga, Golden State, I would imagine, would have no interest in Cam Thomas, just from the way he plays and compared, with what they're building and what they have.
So I have a follow-up question for Pete, too, because like he mentioned, the Emmanuel Quickley and the RJ Barrett contracts. And I think the RJ one is something that you can compare to, but we have seen just other teams in the past give out horrible contracts, and that's what the IQ contract is, right? He's not a $32 million player. We all know that. He's definitely not a bad player, but he's nowhere near the price of 32.5 a year. When you're looking at those contracts, right, and looking at the current restricted free agents, you'd have to think RJ Barrett is a better player than any of the available free agents that are still restricted currently, right? Would you say RJ is better than Kuminga and Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes at this time as a player?
All right.
I think RJ is better than all 3 of them.
I hate RJ Barrett.
I'm very,
RJ had a really good season, guys. He had a really good season.
Yeah, 21, 5, and 5. Yeah, like to me, if you're just basing it off of last season, to me, RJ Barrett's the better player of those 3 that I mentioned. Josh Giddey, you can make an argument for just because the second half of the season he looked incredible. I definitely think he's a guy that deserves that $26 to $30 million range. But when you're looking at guys like Kuminga and Cam Thomas, who are unproven, have struggled with efficiencies, have struggled to find second aspects to their game, and you're looking at the price tags of RJ and other current restricted free agents, Cam Thomas to me is maybe around the same price range, if not just a tad bit more than Quentin Grimes. And I would only give Quentin Grimes 15 to 17 a year if I was a team. So to me, I would price out Thomas maximum at like 18 to 20. I think that's the max I would give him at this point, especially because of how the market is.
I kind of missed. Did you say Grimes and who did you say was better, or did you say they were about equal? Grimes and Cam Thomas.
I would say they're about equal in terms of production.
Okay.
Like Quentin Grimes was more valuable to Philly than Cam Thomas has ever been to the Nets, but Cam Thomas is just a better
He's
scorer.
not wrong.
Grimes is a more valuable NBA player to any NBA team.
I agree. He's a better defender. He's a better spot-up shooter. He plays off ball. He can play make at times when he's given the opportunity to. I think he's a much more well-rounded player at this point. I think Cam Thomas is the most one-dimensional player of the 4 current restricted free agents. Like at least Kuminga at 6'7", he can help you out on the defensive end, but outside of that, his playmaking and rebounding isn't great either.
Here's my problem with giving. I'm going to address this to Nate. Here's my problem with giving Cam Thomas that $20 to $25+ million contract. Jordan Clarkson just signed for the mid-level exception, right? The way people value, I know Cam's a bunch of years younger, so that helps. But the way if I'm a championship team, if I'm building a championship team, do I really value Jordan Clarkson and Cam Thomas that much differently? That's my first question. And the piggyback off of that, if I'm paying him 20 to 25 million, how do I then trade him? Because the teams don't value his contract.
All right. Well, the first one, right? No, right? He's not. We texted about this. They're not that much different, which is a fair point. But also, like, you would never get the opportunity to get Jordan Clarkson in Brooklyn. He's not coming here. The Jazz did him a favor so that he can play for the minimum and go try to win a championship in New York. And he could have made more money than he is. So that whole scenario is one instance. It's like Jalen Brunson taking less money. It's kind of a one-off that you can't compare. Anyway, when we talked about, I don't want to make this the RJ Barrett podcast, but I hate RJ Barrett as a player. I despise how he plays. I think he's head down to the left, 2 dribbles, and he can't even dunk at 6'7". He's a disgusting basketball player, but he gets his points, right? He gets his stats. I hate RJ Barrett, but when the Knicks gave him his money, you still had to pay him, right? Because he was the 3rd pick in the draft, putting up that production that they could move. The Knicks, and any Knicks fan knows this, the Knicks had their eyes on OG for about a year plus before.
Yeah, year and a half, 2 years.
They got OG, right? To get OG, they had to sign garbage left-handed layup RJ Barrett. So whoever it is, if you're saying Kuminga, right, then you got to tell me Sean Marks has his eyes on Kuminga and that's his OG, right? That's your championship role player, and you have to be right about that. But I'm saying whoever it is now, if you have Cam Thomas, you're somewhat more flexible. What do you have, like 18 draft picks the next 6 years? So now you can get Cam Thomas and draft picks and go get the guy you want, the championship piece you want from a team. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so here's my counter to that.
That's why I signed Cam.
Yeah, here's my counter to that, though. I would agree with you on that if we still had Kyrie and KD, but this isn't a team that's close to contending, right? The Knicks before OG were still a playoff contention team making deep pushes, whether that be first, second round, regardless, they were still a playoff team, right? So them finding that missing piece and signing those guys to then make available for a trade, that made sense. But when you're looking at the current construction of the Nets,
the Knicks had Julius Randle.
So?
The Knicks were garbage. The Knicks had 41 wins when they signed.
Julius Randle was
they were slightly better than Nets are. They were literally the Nets with Julius Randle and Elfrid Payton.
I was gonna say Julius Randle was an all-star that year, no?
Right, but I'm saying that's the only difference between the two teams. Was one had Julius Randle, which is like the Nets could get a player like Julius Randle next offseason.
Brandon Ingram, for instance. That's why I've been adamant about getting guys like Ingram.
That's very possible. So it's like those teams weren't that different. It's not like, we got to give RJ Barrett this money because we're one piece away from a championship. They were like, what did they have? 40 wins and then went down to 35 and then went to 45 and then paid lefty layup 2 dribbles RJ Barrett. Like they were not the Knicks that they were today when they paid him.
No, I completely agree, and I think that's why when you're looking at the current situations, right, we're not a third, fourth option away from contending, right? We don't even have our first or second option set in stone yet. So to me, to give out contracts like that kind of takes away from what they're trying to build towards, which is maximum cap space in 2027, similar to the way that they did when we got KD and Kyrie, right? The difference is between that year and this year is you now have a young foundation of youth that you've drafted much higher picks than you ever have before, compared to 2018, 2019 when
what do you want to do with Cam? I don't know if I know your official take. What do you want to do with Cam?
I want to bring him back. I personally want him back on $18 million a year, 3-year deal, player option for the 3rd year, because I think that is not only a tradable contract, but it's also a very team-friendly contract to a point where
So we
you
basically
will.
agree. I'm all
Yeah,
in.
yeah, no,
I
I
want him
He's
to be a
willing to.
tradable asset. I'm not letting him walk out like Gary is. And
yeah.
I'm not saying Jonathan Kuminga is this all be a piece that I must have on my team.
But he is though. Like he's not okay. Like I want to get to Pete because Pete's been quiet. Look, Kuminga can be a part of a championship team. He can be a part of a good team, and he fits on what you're doing, right? Like he fits in as a role player. I'm not asking him to be the star. I'm not even asking him to be the number 2 option. You know what I'm saying? Right now, he's my number 2 option, but I'm not close to competing yet. If I get Kuminga, I could be maybe 500. I could be where the Knicks were when they, before they got Brunson, and then I just go get my all-star. I go get my superstar when the time is available. I got all the pieces in place to do that now. I'm not getting my superstar and then trying to put it together. I'm just plugging in the superstar. And with Cam Thomas, I don't think he's got the trade value. You guys just say, "Oh, we're going to trade him." If I got a $20 million contract attached to him, I don't think it's going to be that easy to trade him without taking on a bad contract. I already got Nick Claxton. I already got Terrence Mann. I already got bad contracts on the books. I don't want to bring in another bad contract. So, like, it might just, unless he wants to take the qualifying offer, unless that's the best he can do. Why am I paying him $18 million? Look, I like Cam Thomas. If it was up to me, I'd have him here. Sean Marks didn't want to draft him. Kevin Durant did. Kevin Durant made him. At no point has in that organization really shown that they like Cam Thomas. So he's not a part. They drafted 4 guards. He's not going to be here. Why am I get what you're saying.
You
But
pay him
rather
because
go-
someone has to score in the Barclays Center besides Sabrina Ionescu this year. Someone's
I'll
gotta
bring
put the ball.
Ionescu in, right? Right. What it is what it is. But I'm saying, like, he's not a part of what I'm building. So I'm not going to pay him, and then hopefully I can trade him. Like, I'm just going to let him go and give the money to somewhere I think is better allocated. Pete, how much would you be willing to offer Cam? And, do you actually think he's a tradable piece? Because I don't think he's that tradable.
I think you made a great point. Like, people in the league, I think it's even in articles now, it's so polarizing on where you value Cam Thomas. Some people love him. Some people think he's a 6-man. Some guys think he's a role player who could only score, like Dylan, right? I think we got to keep
Yeah,
this
I
in
look at him
mind.
as like Norman Powell.
Yeah, like $25 million a year is about 16% of the cap. If I can get him at anything lower than that, even if he stays at the player that he is right now, and you plug him in as like a 6-man, that's not bad because I think we all can admit he's a pretty good scorer, and that's not that bad of a number to pay 15% of the cap. That's not bad. That's not bad in my mind.
Yeah, see, I'm a bit more opposite just because of the current state of the Nets. Like, to me,
But you got to pay him because he's going to take the qualifying offer. So you at least have to pay him enough to say, you know what, like this year, whatever, you would make what, like 6, 7, 8 million. We're going to give you 18, 20 million. So then, we buy out your, at least this year and next year. And then you try to make a deal. And I don't know if there's going to be value for him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I personally would, if he's coming back on a qualifying offer, I'm looking to trade him because you already know that he's not coming back in unrestricted free agency, most likely. To me, that's why I keep saying either a 2-year flat out deal for $40 million for $20 per year, no options, or a 3-year deal with a player option at $18 million a year. I think those are the only 2 ways that I would even look to keep him long term, just because, again, we all have our opinions, but the stats show that an undersized 2-guard with only scoring ability is never going to be your 1 through 3 option. It's very rare. So to me, it's just not something to keep betting on. Just get him on a team-friendly contract as possible, and look for him to be the focal point of a trade package at some point in the near future.
Let me ask one question to Dylan, and then I'll shut up again. All right, let's look at Cam Thomas as a player, the contract, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. We see he's not getting a lot of value. So if he takes the qualifying offer and you want to trade him, it's like, what is the value of 4 months of Cam Thomas if he's already not really valued along like in the league? I think you have to at least tie him up to a 2-year deal So at least gives you the options that you don't lose the asset for nothing. No,
I agree too, and that's why I said I would. The qualifying offer is definitely the one thing I don't want him back on because he's played with these stars. He's got a bit of that ego and chip on his shoulder. He's definitely the type of person where if we don't pay him this year and give him some form of length on a contract, he'll leave an unrestricted free agency. So I agree. I think a 2-year flat out deal with no options or a 3-year deal with a player option are the two routes that I would look to do.
I just don't see why he's not a part of what we're building. Maybe you can trade him, but like RJ Barrett has a body, he can defend, he can do multiple things. I can look at RJ Barrett and say, here's where he fits into my team. Here's what I can do with him. Cam Thomas doesn't give me that option, right?
RJ needs the ball to be good, and RJ's not good enough to demand the ball in his hands on a good team. Similar to Cam Thomas.
I don't know though,
right?
because he had those split minutes. I don't know if I could like fully agree with that, just because he had his split minutes with Quickly and Barnes last season, two of which are probably more ball dominant players than RJ is, right? Guys that bring the ball up. I don't know. I think RJ's a very underrated player. He may not have the bag to create his own shots as a lot of people thought he would, especially coming into Duke. But I don't know. I think he's one of the best third options in basketball.
Yeah, but once he creates his own shot, he also can't shoot.
I mean, they improved. Did he not take a jump in 3-point percentage this year?
It's been erratic. He had one good year with the Knicks. This year was better. It's been erratic. It's been up and down.
He's got a really slow release. He's not. He's not.
Yeah, no, he does. That's that lefty shooting form. I swear, lefties are just not that good at shooting. I'm trying to look at his stats real quick. Yeah, he took a dip, 35%, but that was only a 32 and 26 game sample size. Oh no,
and you know what also is, Dylan? Like you've played basketball. That's with 8 feet of space and nobody closing out because they don't respect his shot. He's not a good shooter. Like that's what he's shooting with them giving him a jump shot on a catch and shoot.
No, he's definitely not a good shooter.
Taking tough threes. That's him taking corner threes that Scotty Barnes is demanding a double. Then they're like, fine, we'll live with an RJ Barrett 3.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not the best floor spacer. But I mean, I'm looking at his 2-point percentage because he's never been known to be a great 3-point shooter to begin with. But his 2-point percentage.
He's gonna take 2 dribbles to the left, put his body in, and shoot a layup every time.
Yeah, I was
Here's my point. If I'm a GM and you're
Euro, I'm sorry, where he my Euro.
If I'm a GM and you're a GM, and we need a third option, and my two choices are RJ Barrett or Cam Thomas, who's going to get more money? 10 out of 10 times.
It's RJ. I'm never taking RJ on my team if I'm trying.
If I'm a GM and you're a GM, and we're all GMs here, and I have two options I have two guys I can give the money to, Cam Thomas or RJ Barrett as my third option on a championship.
Both at $27 million a year.
Who's going to get more money? Who's going to demand more money? RJ or Cam Thomas?
It's a terrible option.
He's just a more complete.
Slip my wrist, bro. I'm good on both. What are you talking about?
I agree. I agree to a degree with Nate in terms of. Yeah, I agree to a degree with Nate, and just in terms of RJ as a first or second option. But in terms of being a third option, I think he's by far one of the best in the league. Like him getting to play next year next to Ingram and Saudi, that could be a very interesting trio in Toronto.
Yeah, but he's a third option that always needs the ball in his hands to be good.
As a floor spacer, yes, he's not reliable as a third option, but
yeah,
Barnes is also not a score first player, right? So I think that kind of it. Yes, he's the third option in terms of impact on that team next year, but Ingram's the primary scorer and RJ's the second. And I think that if you're putting up 21 a game, that's not bad for your second option. That's Jaylen Brown.
But if RJ Barrett is the third option on a championship team, it's because he's playing next to Luka and Steph. That's not he's not a third option on a championship team.
But I mean, he could have a role on. That's my point. He could have a role on that team. Cam Thomas could never have a role on team with Luka and Steph or whatever dream scenario you gave.
Yeah, but Cam in a playoff series can have 2 games where he can give me 30 and steal a game on the road.
Facts.
RJ Barrett is shooting 1 of 7 with 8 points and 2 assists in a playoff game.
I gotta see that. Hold on, what's his playoff numbers? I feel like we're. Maybe
he hasn't played a ton in the playoffs, right? I mean,
maybe this is just my Duke fandom coming out, but let's see. Yeah, this may just be my Duke fandom coming out. Let's see. What are his playoff numbers?
RJ Barrett.
Pete, do you think there's a trade market for Cam Thomas?
As of right now, what do you mean in general, or
If
like
we signed,
right
if we gave him $20 million a year, $18 million, somewhere between 18 and 25. If we gave him that much money, let's just say 20 for this. Do you think there's teams willing to trade for Cam Thomas? Even if he's averaging 25, 26 points a game by the deadline, is anyone willing to take him?
Yeah, I do, because you're going to run into a situation of teams maybe needing some scoring, a team that's contending that needs a little extra punch coming off the bench. Like I could see that, especially if there's only like 1 or 2 years left on a deal. I could see that. Plus, I guess we haven't really talked about it. Look how young he is. Was he going to be 24 this year? 25?
Yeah, he's going to
There's
be 24.
still room to grow.
He's still 23.
There's
Yeah.
still room to grow, and if you can add a kid with a low cap hit, because 20 million is going to be a low cap hit in like maybe even a year and a half, 2 years from now, and he could grow a little bit, I could see a team taking a chance. I really could.
To follow up with what Pete just said before I answer Nate's question on the playoff performances for RJ, my only problem is we keep talking about growth with players. Didn't we say the same thing about Claxton 2 years ago when he was 24? Like,
Absolutely.
and that's my thing, right? When is that cutoff on a player's development? To me, it's when you enter year 4 or 5 in the league. I think that's the player that you are, right? There's your occasional anomalies like Zubac this year. What is he in year 8 or 9?
Jalen Brunson.
they're
They're anomalies, but they're anomalies.
Brunson entered what, year 5 when he went to New York? Was that year 5 for him? You
and I still think he's gotten better every year. I think he's way better now.
So that's what I'm saying, though, right? There's cutoffs for a lot of players in this league. Like, when is that cutoff for some of these guys? Because Claxton's cutoff was 2 years ago, and everybody thought, including myself, that he was going to, potentially develop a better offensive game. He didn't. Everybody thought that he was going to be in depoy conversations from here on out. He hasn't been. When is that cutoff for Cam? Because we've given him 4 years now. I understand the first 2 years he didn't really play, but again, when you're playing on a contender and you're that much of a liability on every other aspect of the court outside of scoring, when is that cutoff for him?
I say 27, 28 is about the time that you would look for a cutoff. And Claxton, you're right, he hasn't developed, but I would even go on to say that I've seen more growth in CT over his first couple of years than Clax has with his whole career in general, right?
In terms of scoring, I would say yes, but in terms of impact on winning, I think Claxton was a much more impactful winner on a contending team, even with McCall, right? In the Philly series, he was at least more impactful than Cam. Cam didn't really get much opportunities, but again, that's just whether you want to blame coaching or not. He didn't earn the trust of 3 different coaches prior to Jordi Fernandez, and I was kind of talking about this yesterday with somebody who felt that Cam Thomas has been done dirty his entire career. Like, how many excuses can you make on the coaching staff when he's had 4 different head coaches and 3 of them didn't believe in him, right?
And I think that's a great point, because like where I come from the boxing world, when there's a talent, right? Every trainer wants to work with them. Let me get my hands on him. I can turn him into something great. With Cam Thomas, and I'm not trying to dump on Cam Thomas, none of the coaches wanted to play him. They didn't even want to put him on the court. Like, what is that?
Like, I understand the first 2 years because we were considerably contending, right? But even as a player with his skill set, you should still be at least able to earn rotational minutes as a player off the bench, especially with his scoring ability. And the fact that he wasn't able to do that kind of shows you that either A, coaches didn't trust him because of those liabilities, or B, he just flat out wasn't working hard enough to earn those minutes, right? And we had seen a lot of issues come up with him in the past where he looked like he was pissed off on the bench, where some people were just saying in interviews that he hasn't earned his minutes. Like, I can't blame coaching anymore on his liabilities when he's about to enter year 5 and he has the same liabilities, So at some point, I feel like we have to figure out what the cutoff date is for him in terms of age and progression. And I think it's this upcoming year.
I would agree with you, but
wait. At 24, you want to give him the cutoff?
Hey, let me
Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say real quick, Gary. For me personally, I think you're the player that you are within 3 to 5 years of your career. And if you're not, it's not worth betting on you any further, because you at that point you're going into a contract year. And no, I'm not paying somebody who hasn't shown progression in any other aspects of the game. His scoring has gone up, sure, but the efficiencies have stayed the same, if not gone down. Like, to me, when there's progress in a player, I'm okay with paying them. When there's not, though, that's when I'm kind of like, you're replaceable,
Like, no matter what, he does one thing and one thing only. at an NBA level and not score the ball. You can say his playmaking improved, and it did. You can say his rebounding improved, and it did. He's not a good rebounding guard, and he's not a good playmaking guard. And he'll never be a good NBA playmaker or a good NBA defender or a good
But Derek,
NBA
he can
rebounder.
score. He can score on almost everyone in the league.
He can, okay, he can.
Someone's gonna want that, and you have that right now. So don't give it away for nothing.
Okay, here's my point.
I think we
I'm
all
gonna-
agree that we're not giving it away for nothing, right?
Gary's not. Gary's
I
like,
don't
Oh,
wanna
Gary,
know.
you're on the like just
Gary's
renounce
the
his
only
rights
one that
and
we
let
got to
him walk.
convince that 18 mil is okay for 20 points. a
Okay,
game.
so now I signed him 2 years, 18 million. I looked at trade him. What am I getting in return from him? Another bad salary and a pick? That's what I'm getting for him? I'd rather just go after and make a move for Kuminga than get a bad salary.
What are you paying
Hopefully
Kuminga?
I'm
20,
paying
man.
25, 30,
20, man.
whatever I got
For
left
4
in cap
years?
space right now. Yeah, have 3 years with a 4-year option, something like that. I want him here. He's my guy.
I wouldn't lock in any contracts past 2027. I would do a
If Kim-
3-year player option. He'll opt out that 3rd year, and we'll see if we want to bring him back with bird rights or not.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I want him here. I want him and Porter. Those are my forwards. Now I need a big and I need a scoring guard, right? And I'll figure that
Scoring
out.
guard that you just let walk away.
They don't. I don't. It's not that I want to let Cam go. They don't value him. Like the Nets don't want him here. They never wanted him here.
It
Like,
is. Like, I wouldn't say they've never wanted him, but they've shown clear signs that they don't utilize nor view him as a guy. Like, how many guys who get drafted outside of the lottery do teams really look at and think, "Oh, this is our guy"? You know, you have to earn that, and Jokic earned that. Giannis, he was what, the 13th, 14th, 15th pick, whatever it was. He earned that. Even Trey Murphy, 17th overall pick, he earned that this past season, and even the 2 years prior, where he was continuously making strides and improvements. You know, to me, it's just these guys are all developing and proving themselves. Scoring can only do so much for you, and I used the example yesterday with a very big Cam Thomas guy who I used the example of the Indiana Pacers, right? How do you replace his scoring? Well, you have 6 to 7 guys to do the work that one guy did, and that ultimately brought them to a final, right? So with the route that they took in the draft, with the playmaking aspect and the versatility on both ends of the floor, you know, Nolan Troyer to me compares to the guys like Lonzo Ball or Andrew Nembhard. Yegor Demon to me could potentially be your Tyrese Halliburton. You know, Danny Wolf, a guy who can make out of the post, light on his feet, can score within the paint or outside the paint. That to me is kind of showcasing the route that the Nets want to take. And you also have to think of the draft pick next year, right? If you land in the top 3 next year, you're getting your number 1 option. DeBance, DeBoozer, and Peterson heading into the league as of right now are better than probably every player in last year's draft outside of Flag. And even if you were to combine the draft classes, Flag probably goes 2nd or 3rd overall if you combine those draft classes. I truly do think Peterson and Boozer could potentially go over him. So to me, you got to figure out a way not only to get your top 3 pick next year, but that also showcases that Thomas will likely be replaceable. Because if you land Darren Peterson can play the 1 or the 2. And if you already have Yegor and Troyer, that bumps Cam Thomas out.
I wanted to bring this question to Nate and Pete. How far off? Because Nate thinks they could be close to competing, not being a championship team, but be a 5 or 6 or be okay, win 45, 47 games. How far off do you think the Nets are from doing that, Pete? And when they get there, do you think Cam Thomas is a part of that?
That's a great question. I'm sorry, Nate, but you're completely wrong. They're far off. They have a bunch of 19-year-olds, CT and Clax, basically. Michael Porter Jr. has been hurt a lot of his career. Everything that I hear from Nuggets fans, that he's over the hill. We'll see what happens with that. I don't have too much faith. I think that there's a better chance that they finish last in the NBA than they're in like an 8th seed, for sure.
That I agree with. Well, you also have to look at MPJ too, right?
A lot of
people...
we're talking about next year, though, right? Gary?
Yeah, they're going to be bad. We all agree they're going to be terrible this year, right? We're all.
Yeah.
He's saying the year after, so 26,
Oh, year
27.
after.
Yeah,
we're talking about the year
I
after.
think
They're
the year
not.
after.
Let's say it's impossible for next that the next year is not that far. The Knicks went from a garbage team to signing Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, and Elfrid Payton, and then we're in the playoffs. You're not as far as you think. Like
Well,
it's about
so I
one,
can
you have a
agree
good
with
coach.
that to an extent.
Jordy Fernandez is a good coach. You
Yeah.
hope that you just drafted 3 or 4 good role players, if possibly better than that. So, you know what I'm
My
saying? We're
thing
talking
is,
about like
right, I would
10
say
teams are in the playoffs.
in terms of the roster that we currently have, we're nowhere near close to being a playoff team. But you also have to look at it as if you are able to maximize your cap space in 2027, that's the year where there's over 30 players in this league, whether they're top 75, top 100 players or not. There's multiple superstar players that should be available by then as well. That's the summer that can change everything, right? That's where you can go from being a 9 through 11 seed to being, a 4 through 6 seed just that quickly. It's similar to what Brooklyn did with KD and Kyrie, right? So I agree to an extent that we're close because of that reason. In terms of roster building, though, currently we're nowhere close. And to answer Pete with the MPJ comment, I'm not really understanding the injury-prone conversation that he's having. He's played 60-plus games the last 3 seasons, and that's with a back surgery that took him out his entire first year. So to me, he's at his healthiest. He's been playing games. He hasn't missed a lot of time. I think that he's going to be very good for us. I think that, and I was a big Michael Porter Jr. guy when he was playing in high school at Nathan Hill. I've been watching him since his junior year when he was the #1 overall prospect. He had a ability to his game where he was able to create his own shot at his height with his versatility, similar to the likes of Kevin Durant. Again, not a KD comp, but a lot of people talking about him coming out of high school had comped him to Kevin Durant. And though the back injury has definitely taken a bit of that athleticism and ability to handle the ball away, I still think there's a little bit of untapped potential in his game because he played with Jokic all these years, where he's never had the ball in his hands to create his own shot. He was told to just sit there, shoot threes, right? I think you're going to see a little bit more of separation and ball handling in his game that could be developed here to where you could look at him as a high caliber third option when the time comes to contend on this team.
It's possible. And I think, but what my point was, and you kind of said it, was like the effectiveness that he was better in the past. And I think a lot of Net fans think we're getting a fully healthy Michael Porter Jr. Yes, he's probably going to play, and he's going to have a lot of ball touches, pause, and but I don't think he's going to be as effective as we were thinking of the old Michael Porter Jr.
I definitely see his efficiencies going down because he'll be able to create his own shots more, right? He was definitely very efficient as a catch and shoot guy, but now we're going to have to see that drop in efficiency most likely because he's going to be putting the ball on the floor to create his own shot. But again, I think if he's able to develop that a bit more, you're looking at a really high caliber third option on your team when the time comes to contend. Because let's just say, I mean, even if he's your fourth option, like let's just say Yegor Demon becomes a star, right? And I'm not talking a scoring star, but a guy like Giddey or Halliburton who can give you 18, 7, and 7 a night, right? If you have that next to Porter Jr. who can give you your 16 to 19 a night, and let's say you draft a top 3 pick next year, let's just, for example, say the Banston, that's your 24 plus per game guy. That allows you to walk into that 2027 offseason. You can probably get MPJ on a fraction of the price because he's not getting a $40+ million deal ever again, right? We can all agree on that. He's probably going to be in that 24 to 30 million range. So even if you can get him back on a discount, you still have the cap space to go out and grab a star who can give you 23+ a night as well. So that gives you the opportunity to have 4 really high caliber players on your roster to build around. And I think that's where the goal should be looked at, is that 2027 offseason is the gold mine for Brooklyn.
And I think one last thing, Gary, and then I'll shut up again. With the whole Michael Porter Jr. thing, this year he's making a lot of money, and then next year he's making a lot of money, and then free agent, right?
Yeah.
And I think the key is to sign him at a lower number, because right now he's making almost 25% of the cap, and I think we all can agree that a fourth or third option should not
Definitely
be making 1/4 of the cap.
I agree.
Yeah.
So this is the question I wanted.
Get in. Dylan promised me RJ Barrett playoff stats.
Oh God,
yes.
yeah. Please.
Yes, I have it up.
That's
all right.
fired.
So he's played in 3 playoff series. Let's see. It looks like all 3 series went to game 5.
Watched him. He's terrible.
I'm just going to go through the points in order. 14, 13, 7, 21, 17. That was his first playoff series. The following series, 7, 14, 19, 26, and 21. That was his second. And the final playoff series that he was in 2023. It was the semifinals. 26, 24, 14, 24, 26, 11.
What's
Not
the
horrible.
game averages, though?
It doesn't give
No,
me.
it's horrible. All right.
yeah, it doesn't
Dylan,
give me
Dylan
total
completely glossed over it. He's averaging 17, 5, and 3.
No, I'm
8
on the
out of
site. It doesn't
16
give me
games he's
the
played in,
averages.
he shot 40% or less. He's a volume shooter, 40% or less, 8 of the games, and he shot when he scored 4 points a game less
What
in the
website
playoffs.
are you
He's
on? Because
absolutely
I don't have
terrible.
the full percentages.
I'm on
I don't-
I'm looking at his box scores. He's
I'm looking at
terrible. 5 of
Basketball
9, 3 of
Reference.
9, 1 of 4, 1 of 7. I said the stat line earlier. I think I remember this game. 1 of 7, 7 points, 4 of 10, 3 of 8, 3 of 9, 1 of 7. And we're
Yeah.
talking about 2 assists a game. 2 assists a game in the playoffs while shooting 40% and 30% from 3. He's terrible. I'm telling you, I watched the
Is
game.
that
He's not good.
total playoff stats too? Like that's total playoff career stats.
31% from 3, 42% total.
42-31 shooting splits.
With 2.9 assists a game.
Yeah, I don't know why Basketball Reference doesn't give me the points per game, assists per game. Do I have to scroll down more? No.
No, they have
He's not
Basketball
finding-
Reference
He's shooting
is
you
not
out
good.
of series. He's not winning you series.
Oh,
He's
here we go.
literally
RJ
losing you
Barrett
series.
playoff stats. Yeah, I'm looking at. Let's see.
You should be able to get it. You highlight.
Yeah, I'm on
all the-
StatMuse.
all the
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah, no, the percentages are very off. I mean, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists total in his playoff career. In terms of those,
Well,
three
I
stats,
mean,
it's not
shooting
horrible.
percentages are generally going to go down in the playoffs because you're playing better teams who are playing intense defense.
I was gonna say, yeah,
in the
you're
He
actually
can't
playoffs.
score
playing
on good
defense.
defenders in the NBA. He's not scoring on good defenders in the NBA. He's not. He's like the opposite of Cam Thomas. Like, nobody
I
wants
don't
to
know.
guard Cam Thomas.
I'm gonna hold
Anybody
back on
wants
any.
to guard RJ and bro. Go ahead, go right, bro.
I'm gonna hold back on any
Watch him still fall
shit
into
talking
his
on
body.
RJ until he plays a playoff series with Toronto. I think that he's just more developed than he was with New York, and I think he's
I'm
better
just telling you
utilized
guys,
in
You're a
Toronto.
young man, right?
I'm gonna give him one more season. I like his game overall, and if he
Yeah,
does what
yeah.
he did in the regular season with that 21, 5 and 5 a night, I think that could be really
I
good.
don't, and
But
I'll call you when the Jets are in the Super Bowl. Me and you can have that same conversation.
I'm a Steelers fan, so I'm still waiting. I've been waiting since 09 to win another
You're
one.
in the
so.
playoffs every year. You're in the
No,
playoffs.
no,
every
that's
year.
not a no. I don't like participation trophies. Either suck ass or be a Super Bowl contender.
They
I
all
can't
the
stand the
Steelers
in between.
fans. That's what they say.
Yeah, I'm so get rid of Mike Tomlin. I don't like any of these
That's
guys.
wild to me. But
Mike
like,
Tomlin
I,
is one of the
Yeah.
most. Can we go
Give
into
him a
this just for
decade of
one
Adam Gase, Gary. Give him a decade of Adam Gase. I pray for
No,
him.
I want to give you a. I want to give you a
Robert
decade of
Saleh,
Mike
you want
Tomlin.
this?
I want to give you a decade of Mike Tomlin. 7 wild card losses, not one advancement. The guy sucks. He got handed down a team by Bill Cowher, who was one of the best head coaches of all time, and won a Super Bowl within 2 years of that, and he hasn't done dick since.
Well,
absolutely
hang
hate
on.
Mike
He
Tomlin.
did something that we haven't done as Jet fans in 55 years. He went to a Super Bowl.
It's
I
not that
lost
hard.
to the Packers, but he
Yeah,
went
but
to
that's
another
not
Super
hard
Bowl.
when you had James Harrison, Lamar Woodley, Lawrence Timmons, Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark. I mean, I can go down the list of that defense and offense. It's not even remotely
Dylan, if you have the All Pro team, winning a Super Bowl is hard.
Wait, what?
If you have an All Pro team, winning a Super Bowl is hard.
No, it's not. I think with the team that he
Robert
was handed down.
Saleh is not winning a Super Bowl with an All Pro team. Bad coaches don't win Super Bowls.
Is this
Period.
a Jets podcast?
Name me a bad
I get
coach who won a
lost.
Super Bowl.
This is now a Steelers and Jets podcast.
All
yes.
right, all right. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Nate, we'll
Let's
have to
bring it
talk
back.
about this off air.
Let's bring. I wanted to
We'll join Gary's Jets podcast.
my greater point was this, right? I think we all agree that, and I said on Connor's podcast, I think Michael Porter Jr. is going to be here longer than Cam Thomas is. When Cam Thomas is long and gone, Michael Porter Jr. is still going to be here. So do we all agree that Cam Thomas's future is not in Brooklyn, his long-term future beyond the next year or two? Do we all agree on that? Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Do you think what you're going to, if you signed him to 18 to 25 million, somewhere in that range, pick a number, what you traded him for is more valuable or less valuable than Kuminga? If not, why not just try to go get Kuminga?
I think Cam Thomas's trade value is horrible because nobody knows what you're getting out of him.
Let him walk. Let him walk. Got Pete, Nate.
It's tough.
I mean, I don't hate
I'm not-
Kuminga. I don't
Go ahead,
hate
Nate.
him. I'm not gonna throw shade in Kuminga. They're two completely different players. Like you would need both. The playoff team needs a scorer off the bench, and you need a weak side rim protector that can occasionally knock down a 3-ball for you, but like who can't create at all for himself or others. But they're polar opposite players, and depending on who you need, if you just lost your weak side rim protector and the Lakers need, they're not going to need a Cam Thomas. If Austin Reeves just went down, they might call you up for Cam Thomas. So it's like you need both players, but right now you are in possession of one. So that's my whole point, and has been.
But I'm going to be in possession of one either way, I feel. Right? Like, I'm the only one that can offer Kuminga what he wants.
All right, so you better be right. You better be right on Kuminga, though, because I feel like he's still somewhat of a question mark outside of.
I look at Kuminga as the same exact question marks as Cam Thomas. The only difference is,
Yeah,
and again, it's all preference based. Who would you rather bet on? A 6'7" wing who is a better defender, or a 6'3" guard who's a better scorer? Who would you prefer? Because they both have the same question marks as rebounders and playmakers and in terms of winning impact players. But Kuminga has very good scoring abilities, but he's also a much better defender than Cam Thomas. So it's like, which one would you prefer to bet on at $20 million a year? I would take Kuminga every day.
To me, it's a no-brainer. Like, I can use Kuminga in a number of ways. I swear to God, I'm a Cam Thomas fan. I know this comes off like I'm the biggest Cam Thomas hater. I'm a Cam Thomas stan. I'm just trying to be realistic with the Nets outlook. Like, I root for the name. What does Dylan say? Root for the name on the front of the jersey, not the back.
Root for the name on the front, not the back.
Right. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to be realistic with the way the Nets perceive him. I just don't think the Nets value him. And to be fair, I would value on a winning team Kuminga way more than I value Cam Thomas. I know we're not a winning team yet, but the goal is to be a winning team.
All right, let me play devil's advocate. Let me represent Cam Thomas here, just for the sake of the podcast, right? What does playoff basketball come down to? How do you score on the playoffs?
Team basketball, floor spacing, off ball.
Well, half-court sets. Is that what you're asking me? In the half court?
Yeah, but in the half court, you need to have talent, and you have guys that can go one-on-one and put the ball in the hole. That's the bottom line. So, like, you need guys that can
hang on. Let me. I'm going to let you, but I just want to put this out there. You killed Thibodeau because all he did was let Brunson go 1-on-5, 1-on-1, 1-on-5, right? Like, you killed him for that. But yeah,
agreed. I hear you. No. I'm not saying run Thibodeau's offense and just run it out there. But I'm saying it comes down to one-on-one basketball for the most part. You need talent, unless you're somehow the side to side, run up and down and throw touchdowns, Indiana Pacers. That was an outlier. We can all agree on that, right? But you need guys that can put the ball in the hole one-on-one. Cam Thomas can do that today. Like today, he can score in a playoff series today. So like Kuminga to me is somewhat of a question mark. And again, Cam, I agree with what I've heard the podcast 100 times. Cam does nothing else for you. He helps nobody else. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't play make, but he can put the ball in the hole. And then, like, I can think of so many playoff series that we all just watched where teams are struggling to score. They would have put Cam Thomas in.
Yeah, but I still go back to Indiana though. Like every series, they had a different guy closing out their games. Whether it was T.J. McConnell, Ben Mathurin, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Halliburton. Like they had a different guy going off in the fourth quarter to come back and win games every single game. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't value one specific scorer, because at the end of the day, if he can't do anything else, what makes us think in a playoff series he's just not getting double teamed and forced into passing?
Then tell me Kuminga is Pascal or Trey Murphy. I think
Kuminga has the same.
Tell me he has more to his game than just weak side rim protecting.
I think he has better defensive abilities as a 6'7" wing.
He does.
That's where my stance is.
Trey Murphy can score everywhere. He proved
Trey
that this year.
Like, tell me,
I want him to have that type of upside though. But if you're telling me
I don't know if I see that
protector who can guard multiple positions and catch and shoot and catch a lob, I can get there's 100 of those guys in the league.
Yeah, I can't really talk about Kuminga's upside though, just because he's been on a contender his entire career that hasn't valued his minutes. Right? He's kind of like, if let's just say KD and Kyrie and Harden never left, right, and they were still on the team. That's what Cam Thomas would currently be. But we've seen Cam Thomas be the number 1 and number 2 option for 2 years now, right? So we kind of know what his upside is. We never really have seen Kuminga's upside because he's never played on his own or as a second option or has really been utilized on that playoff rotation, right? I mean, he barely got playoff minutes this year, and in one game he put up 30 points and won them the game. So we've seen that he can at least do those things when given the opportunities. Cam Thomas, that we haven't even seen look like an all-star on a team of his own.
I'm not against Kuminga at all. I said that earlier. For a sign and trade or some type of move, I'm I don't want to let assets walk out the door,
No.
especially with the roster that the Nets have right now.
No, I
Nate, I
agree.
never, just to switch gears a little bit, Nate and Pete, I never really got your take. I think I might have gotten Pete, but I just refresh my memory on Yegor. I know you got the fortune of seeing Yegor outside of a Hilton in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, breaking news! I almost hit Yegor on my e-bike. I almost flat out took him out outside the Hilton in downtown
Was this
Brooklyn.
before or after he got drafted?
After
It was after he
it was
got
the press
drafted,
conference.
and I was
The
like,
press
"Yo,
conference.
who's that tall Russian?" He grabbed his mom. He because I was flying, and he was like kind of jaywalking, but he
Yeah,
grabbed his
welcome to New
mom and
York,
like
bud.
held her back from like getting hit, and I would like kind of gave him the wave, and then I kind of like did a double take. To me, he looked like he was 6'6". That's why I told Gary, I was like, unless you got a really tall mom. I was also on a bike too, so he didn't look.
I was gonna
I
say,
sent
yeah,
Gary
you
the
being on
picture
the bike
because
probably puts you closer to eye level.
yeah, I turned around, I took pictures of him, and then I zoomed in on the shirt. He was wearing the same shirt he was at the press conference, that like weird birds and shit. That's why I was like, yeah, it's definitely him because only one man owns that floral bird shirt, and
Yeah, there
and is
ain't two
wearing
of
it in
those.
Brooklyn.
That's
That
for
looks like
damn
a
sure.
6'8" Russian in downtown Brooklyn.
So, time out. We got to blame Nate for this because if he would have hit him before the draft, maybe the Nets don't take him and they take Maluwak or somebody else. So it's really Nate's fault that we took Demon. So
I was
I'm
also
blaming
working the
him now.
draft. I got
Oh,
to meet
Pete,
like
you're
all
not a
the first
Demon
round
guy?
draft picks. I could tell you who's a dick and who's not.
I'll
I
tell.
want to have that
You want me
conversation
to
at
flesh
some
out
point.
my denim take,
Let's hear
Gary?
it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be quick with it. If they believed that this is your guy, you spend all this time doing scouting, you know what I mean? Going to these games, going to Europe, watching hours upon hours of film. If you believe that that's their guy, then I'm happy they got him, right? But it better pan out. Realistically, do I think it was a reach? Yeah. If we take, for example, like Maluwak at 8 and they wound up somehow trading up to maybe, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it is, and you get Demon as like your second first, no matter who you take after that, I think everyone is like celebrating because you at least have two pillars you can build around. But Demon as like the lead in this draft, it scares me a little bit.
I completely agree. Like if you thought Demon was your guy, I don't hate the pick because he was one of my top 5, top 6 favorite players in this draft, just in terms of upside. And I've been on him since before the college basketball season started. He was projected late lottery, outside of the lottery, and I was probably one of the only people that were saying I think that this guy could genuinely be a top 5 pick. He got as high as 4th overall on the mock drafts for the first 2 months of the season, and then dropped off. But like, I agree. If you take him at 8 and you think he's your guy, that's fine. But make a move up. Atlanta traded back. Portland traded back. You could have gotten Carter Bryant at any of those positions. You could have gotten Noah Asenge at 11, right? Like, that's how you take those swings and upsides and those risks, is by going out and getting another guy with those same upsides, rather than just sitting and picking 5 rookies who now you're going to have to, give time to develop each of them. How often do you see 5 rookies in the same draft class get developed equally? You don't.
Never.
Exactly.
You don't.
Right. So that's going to push out one of what? Saraf is definitely getting pushed out. I don't think we're going to see that guy play.
Well, Powell's hurt.
All year. Yeah, Powell's hurt right now, but they're saying it's minor. We'll see. It's the Nets, so something minor usually means season ending. But yeah, I think Saraf is the guy that gets pushed out and looks like a horrible pick in 2 years from now.
What if I told you didn't have Drake Powell, you didn't have Saraf, and you had to give maybe another pick, like, I don't know, like a 2030 first rounder, right? And you package those picks together and you wound up getting another top 13 pick. You get your Carter Bryant.
I do it every day.
Derek Queen. I don't think
do it
it's
every
even
day.
close.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather have
every
that.
day. I
Right?
completely agree.
I gotta go on one thing though. I've been watching a lot of tape of Trae since they drafted him. He might be really good. He might be Maxey. He might be. Like,
I wouldn't go that far. I think he's what Lonzo could have been if he developed a shot sooner.
His shot's not that bad. He's got a little sidestep. He's got a step back. Like, he's not hitting it consistently, but he can hit the step back 3. He's got that really good sidestep too. Like, I don't know. Like, I was totally against that pick, and it still doesn't make a ton of sense to me because you just
That's
took
a
a point
steal at
guard.
19.
I agree.
He might be really good.
I agree. No, I agree with the Traore pick. I like that pick a lot. And again, I think he's also a guy that could play that Andrew Nembhard role where, let's just say, Yegor is your Halliburton. Okay, well, Traore, though he can play make like Nembhard can, he can also defend like Nembhard can and can space the floor if developed properly. I don't hate the pick at all. It's just, again, at the end of the day, how you don't trade up for a guy like Thomas Sorber, Carter Bryant, or Noah Asenge, is mind-boggling to me. I don't understand how you stick and pick 5 picks.
Especially
horrible
over Saraf.
I want to ask Nate this.
Like
I want to
if
ask
you
Nate-
were to take all 5 picks and replace Saraf with Fleming, honestly, I don't hate
it's not
it.
bad.
I have no
it's not
problem
bad.
with it. But
Yeah.
the fact that you went with 3 guards was absolutely stupid. It's so stupid on many levels.
But doesn't it tell me that Cam Thomas isn't going to be here? After they took Yegor, I thought, okay, Cam's going to be here because Yegor and Cam, I kind of think, work together. They kind of cover each other's weaknesses. But then they did Traore and Saraf and Drake Powell, right? Like,
well, Powell to me is a 3. I don't like how they're
3?
listing him. Yeah, I don't like how they're listing him as a guard. To me, him and
kind of
Dariq
agree.
Whitehead are very similar. They can both play the 2 and the 3, but they're probably best at the 3.
Nate, how do you think could that be a fit long term with Cam Thomas and Yegor, or how do you envision that? Was that in the thought process at all when they took Yegor that you could play him with CT?
I think for Cam Thomas, like we've talked about this since, like I said, 12 months ago or plus. He's like a Lou Will type where he can be a 6-man on almost any team. If you're a solid team, at least he doesn't fit on a team like this where he's got to start and have the ball in his hands all the time. But when the starters come out and it's him versus the other bench, nobody wants to guard him, and he's going to be able to score. Like, and that's where he can help you both regular season, and I think he's a playoff scorer. So that's kind of And if he's hot, he's going to be in there the last 4 minutes of a game. So I'm Cam Thomas. I've already seen enough talent where, especially the numbers Dylan was bringing up, 2 years 20, 3 years 18. Yeah, 100%. That's 6-man money.
If you're gonna pay him, I want him to be here. I don't want to pay him to trade him because I think the money is better spent elsewhere than doing doing
You don't know
another
that.
Terrence Mann.
Again, you want that, but you don't know that. Knicks fans were excited because they had RJ Barrett, and then it turned into OJ. They were all mad. All the RJ Barrett fans, they were pissed.
12 months ago on this day, Net fans were excited that we re-signed Claxton. How are they doing a year later?
Well, that's a really bad signing, but they weren't able to move that contract. But Cam can do what Claxton never really showed. He can guard the perimeter for a 4. That was his best NBA talent. He had good switchability and can guard guards but that was all he ever showed you. That was why they paid him, which is wild. He pretty much was a lob threat. That's not enough to give someone the contract they gave him.
Detroit offered him the same contract, which is the problem. They had to
You're not
offer
giving him that money.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You would have also said we hit on Claxton in the second round, and now we're going to lose him for nothing. But now you have him, and you're stuck with them. I don't want to. That's what I'm saying. They like Claxton. I don't. They do. I like Cam. They don't. Like I don't want to be stuck with another
Claxton
contract.
I just said, what is Claxton? Describe his player to me.
He's a perimeter defender. You're going to say he's a lob center. I don't think he's any of those things. I don't think he's a rebounder.
No, he's a lob 4-man that can shoot or put the ball on the floor, that can switch onto guards, that can't guard 5s either.
He can't guard 5s,
Who else has that in the NBA? Name another. Who is paying that in the NBA? They messed up by paying him. That's their fault because they had a 4-man that could guard the perimeter, and they thought that was exciting.
You could have got Jonathan Isaac, right? Isaac is the same thing, but better.
Who?
Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah, Jonathan Isaac is he's more skilled in general. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he makes less, and they think he's overpaid, and he makes less than Claxton. I know he's hurt all the time.
Jonathan Isaac never plays for the most part.
What was that?
He also never plays for the most part, Jonathan Isaac.
He plays. He plays like 15 minutes a game. He's hurt. He's hurt. Yeah, he's hurt. He's hurt all the time. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't mean minutes. Yeah, saying he literally can't stay on the floor.
But right now, if Orlando called me up and said, I know the trade can't be done, but if Orlando called you up right now and said, I'll swap you Isaac for Claxton, even if the contracts matched, you would take that in a second, right?
Yeah. Claxton has shown you literally nothing.
Claxton to me is like, and that's why when we signed him, I was like, okay, you got to spend the money somewhere, but you've just overpaid Nick Claxton. And like now the contract, who was it, Dylan, that assessed it? It was like the second worst contract in basketball last year.
Jamal just said what was Ben Wallace for Detroit in your chat, but Ben Wallace was not Claxton. Ben Wallace could guard 5s. He was the best rebounder in the league. He could legit guard
Ben Wallace is just what is his name? Jalen Duren, but with insane defensive abilities as a small
Ben
forward.
Wallace was an
600.
excellent
Ben Wallace was
passer.
setting-
Ben Wallace was an excellent post defender. He guarded
He was setting
Shaq.
absolute walls. If he was like 4
Yeah.
feet wide, he would set a wall, bro. Claxton sets a pencil.
Yeah. I was going to say to go on what Gary was mentioning before, Claxton, they did like an end of the season analysis on how players played compared to their contracts. Claxton was the second worst player statistically playing at a contract value of $400,000. Like, he was horrible. Jaylen Brown was number one. He's on a $60-something million deal. He played at the value of somebody, I think they said, making $17 million. It was like the farthest drop off. So the contract itself isn't bad. It's just the player on this team, it doesn't fit anymore. He needs to go somewhere else. There are certain players, and that's another thing too, is when's the deadline of how your development team develops a player. We've seen guys get traded who aren't being developed properly elsewhere and look incredible elsewhere, right? Tyrese Halliburton on the Kings, then to the Pacers. Was still a solid player, but never reached that all-star potential with Sacramento, got traded to Indiana, and he's become what he is today. Same thing with Sabonis. Originally playing in Indiana, didn't look like an all-star, went to Sacramento, looked like an all-star. So at some point, you also have to figure out your development staff has kind of done its job. It's now up to somebody else because they're not developing any further here.
We often credit the Nets for their developmental team and the way they develop players. Are we overrating that?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes. 1,000% yes. What have we developed? We've developed role players.
Yeah, and
we've developed late
who are we
20s
even pointing at? Nick Claxton? Like Jalen Wilson? Is this what we're pointing at?
We really haven't developed much. We've developed a couple of role players into role players. It's not something to do naked backflips over. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something to go crazy about. Until you develop a star, I'm not calling your development staff geniuses, you know?
But, like, no one else is even, like, really overperformed from what we thought they would be, right? Like, to me, Claxton is a second-round pick. Like, he's not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, he was picked 31st if we redrafted that. Where would he go? 27, 28? Like, I mean, he's not good.
Can I make a point here, Gary?
Go ahead, Pete. Yeah, we haven't heard from you for sure.
I think you guys make valid points, but I think what we're forgetting here is the lack of draft picks he had at the beginning. And the reason why they talk about the development staff so much is because there were no picks. And if you can get a starter or like a sixth man or like, you know, a spot up shooter out of like nothing from like a free agent signing off somebody else's roster, making the minimum, that's success because it saves you money on your roster. So your cap space goes to a Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You had a Spencer Dinwiddie making what, like around the minimum. And that's one of the reasons why they had so much Steph before the James Harden trade.
No, I agree. The guys they developed in that class, LeVert, Dinwiddie,
it's been a
Joe
while.
Harris. It's been a while. Like, what have they done? Like, what have you done since? Like, nothing.
You're right. You're right.
I've ran through all my topics. You guys have any closing thoughts, comments, anything? Pete, Dylan, Nate?
No, I just put it in chat too. I got to head out, but
okay.
No, I think we kind of broke it all down today. But Pete, Nate, appreciate you guys for joining in. I know I was a late scratch to come in, but appreciate you guys, and we'll try and be on soon again.
Yeah, man. I think it was a good conversation. I was right about everything. You guys were wrong. Good.
I find it intriguing, right? Like a year ago, I was trying to convince Nate of Cam Thomas's value. Now he's trying to convince me of Cam Thomas's value.
I know.
It's
how the tables have turned. Value is value.
What was that?
Value is value.
I agree, but the Nets don't value him, and so they're just going to trade him, and you're going to get a salary dump and a pick for him. I'd rather just have Kuminga. Like that's unless he takes a $6 million qualifying offer, but then you know for sure you're going to lose him for nothing a year from now. Well, so why have him for one more year? Right? If he takes the qualifying offer, he's not coming back to you because he hates you. Like that's out.
But you can still move him, right?
For what? What are you going to get for him? Whatever you get for him, I'd rather just make the offer for Kuminga. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Is whatever I get for him, I'd rather have Kuminga.
All right. You better hit on Kuminga. You better be that guy.
Yeah. I mean, we're asking him to be our Siakam. like fill that kind of space.
Right. So he better be able to play make and create his own shot and do everything Siakam can.
What would you say the odds of that are? Like if we got him, when he becomes that super role player, what would you
I don't think he can. I don't think he can become Siakam. Everything I've seen, I don't think he can put the ball on the floor the same like Siakam can and play make and be a guy. Siakam can have 6 assists on any given night. I think Kuminga kind of plays at one speed. Guys who are that athletic, they just want to run and jump over everyone, and that's what I see when I watch Kuminga. Granted, if he could shoot the shit out of the ball like everyone else in the NBA, you're in.
Yeah, for sure. Pete, your last thoughts on Kuminga? Is that someone you want to pursue? Like, have you changed your mind on Cam, or do you still want to give Cam the same money? Any thoughts on any? Have you adjusted your thinking at all on Cam? Or are we all basically on the same position where we started?
I'm at the same point. You know what I mean? A lot of people hearing me say, "Oh, Pete said he's worth $30 million." Yes, I'm saying he's worth $30 million in a regular offseason. This is not a regular offseason. So there's a great chance he's going to sign for a lot less than what he wants. But my point of this is, you know what you have with Cam Thomas. This team, look at the roster. It really needs his offense. If they could sign him to a deal, 25 mil or less, I think that's a good deal. And I would be very happy with that. But I don't think he's in the team's future at all.
All right, it was a fun show, guys. Fun discussion. Pete, you wanna plug your show one more time?
Sure. You guys could follow me on Twitter and YouTube at NetFans. I put out about 3 to 4 episodes a month. I talk to insiders, then beat writers, content creators like Gary, all that good stuff. Check it out and leave a like and sub to this podcast for Gary and Dylan.
I'll be back, I guess, Friday morning, 9 Eastern. Me and Connor Long are going to go live. We're going to do like a duel, and we're going to review the first Summer League game. See how that goes. Summer League's just around the corner. Starts tomorrow, right? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow.
10th. Yeah, correct.
All right, guys. It is July 9th. Oh, Nate, anything you want to plug?
No, all good. Don't
All right.
follow
Put in your
me. I'll
Twitter, Nate.
retweet
Come on.
people. You want to see me retweet everyone else?
Yes.
Follow me on Twitter.
That's
So they can see my
Peace out,
tweets.
guys. Always good talk. Hell yeah.
July 9th, 2025, from Texas to the world. Thank y'all, and God bless.
Oh, no, we're still live. And to Gary.
I'm trying to.
Hurry!
It's not cooperating.